everybody. Welcome back to the Empowered CPA podcast. I am super excited to share my guest today. She has been a huge part of my life for about the last 4 years. Her story is amazing. We have gone through quite the journey together, and I cannot wait to share her with you. So please welcome my partner at the Blow Dry Bar, Erin.
Hi, everybody.
So I would love to start with you giving us a little bit of background about the journey you've taken to get to even when we met. So take me back.
Okay, so I will try to keep this as short and sweet as possible. Dawn, when she told me what we were talking about and that she wanted me to talk about a little bit about my background, my first reaction was, why? It's not very exciting. And the people around us told me it is. So hopefully you find it a little interesting. Back when I was younger, I was diagnosed with ADD, and that will become apparent as you hear me through this podcast and get a little bit of what I've done and how many different lives or careers I have had before I settled where I am. And when I graduated high school, I went to college. It was just the next step in my life that everybody said I needed to do. So I went to school and I actually went into a psychology degree. It took me about one semester to realize that I didn't want to do it anymore because I didn't want to have to go get my master's or anything else to actually use it. So instead of changing majors like most people would do, my gut reaction was, okay, well, let's just get through this as quick as possible and get my degree and get on with my life. So fast forward about halfway through college, I got a job at MAC Cosmetics, and am I allowed to say MAC?
Yeah.
All right. Like a cosmetic company. I got a job at a cosmetic company, and I was doing that while I went through school. And I wanted to leave because I realized that I wanted to stay in the cosmetic field, and my parents said, no way. So I finished school, and then when I graduated, I took that cosmetic background and I moved to Los Angeles, and I did makeup and hair for productions. I learned very quickly that they wanted somebody who did both, so I learned styling. And then I learned that I didn't like it. I didn't like being on set and sitting and waiting. It wasn't as exciting as everybody thinks it is. And I ended up starting my first business, which was a freelance hair and makeup bridal business out in California. Fast forward through other life circumstances, I end up in South Florida. And I start the same business again in South Florida. And I went back to MAC. This was also in 2008, 2009 during the recession. So looking back, moving and trying to get a retail job during this time was not the smartest idea, but you know, in your 20s, you don't think about that stuff. So I did get a job. It took a few months before I was promoted to manager, and I was living my life, and I got married. I got pregnant, and I was like, peace out, retail. Drop the mic. I'm done. Never again. And I left the cosmetic field. We then moved to the town we're in now, and I opened up a photography studio, which I forgot to mention when I was in school. I was also an art major. So art has always just been a part of me, whether it's makeup or photography or hair, whatever it is. And I opened up a photography studio, which, you know, anybody who's an artist or does anything, it takes them some time to figure out what their niche is, right? So you start with like everything. I photograph everything. And then you kind of narrow down what you love. And what I found was I went right back to the same thing that drew me to makeup, the same thing that drew me to psychology, was helping women feel better and be better. Because with psychology, I actually I did my thesis in eating disorders. So I was always about like helping people with their image and their body image. And so I specialized in like branding and glamour. And it fell right back into what I've always done. And we included hair and makeup. And it was all stuff that I could do myself if I needed to. And I grew it really fast after I had my second kid. And I was like ready to like get back out there. And I had an actual photography studio. And that is when I met Dawn.
Insert me.
Insert Dawn. I did a model call for a redhead.
In case you don't know,
and
long red hair.
Yeah. And I didn't know who she was. We had some mutual friends and they tagged her in my post. And she showed up like
nervous. You've never seen nervous like I was that day. I'd never had my makeup done, ever. Not even on my wedding day.
Yeah.
I was nervous.
You've changed a lot.
I know.
In the
like, we're going out to dinner. Can someone do my hair for this?
I know.
My makeup? No?
Right. And she came in and, you know, when I'm doing a model call, I'm just looking at like an outward shell, right? I'm looking at your hair color, your like build. Like, I'm not interested in your personality,
My shining personality.
your personality, or if like what I'm trying to achieve visually matches like your personality. When I have a client, I think about that, right? My job is to make them happy, but when I have a model, the model's job is
there for you.
Sit there and look pretty.
Right.
So looking back at the fact of now knowing you so well and what I made you do, it is hysterical to me. No wonder you were so uncomfortable. I had her like naked, wrapped in like this silk
sheet
fabric
that she pinned. She was like
and
grabbing
clamping,
and
and I'm like, I
You're like,
think
don't smile
back,
It's like,
and
I can't do that.
I know,
But I'm gonna try really hard.
It's so funny because I was in my head this very painterly photo with this like larger than life long red hair wrapped in like this beautiful silk fabric, looking at the camera with this like intensity. And Dawn as a person, that intensity, unless you're coming at her with money or a threat, like shit doesn't exist.
It's not my normal demeanor.
No, like you're all smiles. And so it cracks me up when I look at those photos, because now I don't see the photos the way I saw them back then. Like, it's just not a match. So while we were taking your photos, we got to talking, obviously.
I was vulnerable too. I was.
You were a champ. Like, looking back, you were an absolute champ.
I'm a competitor.
You were like, challenge accepted. Challenge accepted.
It's good. I mean, I joke, but I do something once a year that makes me uncomfortable, and that was my commitment for that year.
For the next 3 years. No.
No, sadly no.
Yeah. And so we got to talking, and she was telling me about what she does, that she's a CPA, and it was like, no, I'm just kidding.
It's a normal response.
Right? Oh, yeah, great. You're a CPA. But then she added in, she's like, yeah, but I specialize in artists and entrepreneurs and, you know,
We
people
talk about feelings.
just like you. And I was like floored, because nobody thinks about people like me. We either, you know, people like me, if you're not raised to understand money or respect it, you use TurboTax or don't do your taxes and then get audited, or, you know, you go ahead and just pay somebody to do them and trust blindly that they're doing a good job. But so she was telling me all these things and I was like, that's so cool. It was nice to meet you. Like, have a nice day. I'll send you the photos. And then fast forward a few more months, through a series of events, a blow dry bar idea came into my lap. And if you haven't noticed, I'm just always the type of person that once like an idea gets in my head, like it does not get out.
That's the ADD.
I know, moving. Exactly. That's why I mentioned it, because moving to California, moving to Florida, like opening my photography business, like all of it, if I didn't have that mindset, then I would have thought too hard. I wouldn't have done it. And what I would say, I take calculated risks. So everyone's always like, but you're always successful. Like that's only because I take calculated risks and I just don't give up.
We don't fail.
Like I just don't. Like I just keep going. And I thought, well, I wonder if this is an idea. Like I wonder if it's a good idea. I wonder if my husband will kill me. Let me just like get some more information so I can like come at him with like a plan. And so I contacted this woman I had met who I remembered specialized in CPA and starting businesses and young entrepreneurs and all that stuff. And I messaged her the idea. Do you remember what you messaged back? I don't know if you'll remember, but I do. Test.
No, yeah. I remember you said I have an idea. And I recall, my brain may not be the same as yours. I recall I said, I'm pretty busy, but I'd love to chat. That's what I remember.
Yeah. That's not the part I remember.
Okay. Was it nice?
You said, and I quote, because it's in my journal, I want in.
Well, yeah, you told me it was a blow dry bar. I was like, I'm in.
Yeah. I went in and I was like, holy moly.
Well, so I travel a lot to see clients, and before, the world fell apart, I would go to other clients in other cities. And so the first thing I'd do is I'd drop off my stuff at the hotel, and then I'd go get my hair blown out. And then I wouldn't have to worry about it. So I love the idea of a blow dry bar, and we didn't have one around here that I loved, and so it was self-serving and fun and totally different.
Self-serving.
It's very self-serving.
Yeah. I mean, in my head, we both live in the same community, so to speak, that we also now own a business in. And so I also, when I contacted her, in my head was also the fact that she lives in the community and she, although isn't like our specific target audience, like because her hair dries beautifully naturally, which is so rare. She still knew the community. And so when she was like this number-oriented, logical person, because I'm always told like I'm a dreamer that wanted in, I was like, it just made it that much more real that, wow, this might be an actual good idea, like on paper, like finance, like there's a lot of good ideas out there that will make you homeless. Right. Like, I mean, that wasn't, my goal. And so, when I came to her with that, it was like the next step. Like I always say, like, I'm really big into like signs. And I think that everybody is given these opportunities and that most people just are blind to them.
Or scared.
But most people don't notice the opportunities are even there because they're so closed off to shaking their foundation.
Or changing their day.
Like I can name 100 million times where I've seen opportunities drop into other people's lap that they don't see because they only are focused on something else, or it wasn't in their plan. They can't change their mindset that fast, all of those things. And I was like, so let me just see if the numbers make sense. And then it was like, let me just see if a spot opens up. And I was very specific. I mean, it was like a mile radius with very, very limited retail space. and a lot of salons and non-competes in every single plaza.
Right.
And it had to be under a certain size. And so I was like, well, let's just see. And my famous last words. And
We found it.
it came, yeah.
It was blue. Do you remember how
It
blue
was-
and green it was?
It was a shopping center about a quarter mile from my house that I am in every single day before I opened this place. It has our pizza place. It has my dentist,
Your doctors.
my doctor, my pediatrician. Like it, I was here all the time. And so when this place opened up, I remember calling, and the owners of the place called me sweetie. And I was just like, I'm not going there. I was so mad. And then I was like, you know what? No. Like, if that's the game they want to play, I'll have Phil call. Because, like, I got a goal in mind, and you call me sweetie is not going to be, like, the end of it. But when we looked at it, it was an old tanning salon.
It was bright.
Was blue.
It smelled.
And it smelled, and it was dark, and it was gross. And I was like, this is perfect.
Erin's like, we found it. I'm like, where?
I was like, I am such
Where
a
are we going?
visual person that I, like, went home, and I literally just sketched it out. And I was like, this is my vision, and this is the design, and this is the colors. And like,
I was just so happy because I was like, my brain doesn't work like that. I have no idea where this is coming from, but I think it's fantastic.
and I think that kind of brings us like into the difference of our personalities. I mean, our personalities are so different, and you
We
know,
even look different. I think we joke about that. We're just like,
we're like
different.
the
I'm tall, you're
opposite.
short,
yeah.
the whole thing.
I won't say anything. Okay. So my hair color changes a lot.
That's
But I think that like for us, when we were stepping into that, I have no problem stepping back in like the sense of like you just look more powerful and you own that part of it. And then I have my husband, and he's just a man, so that just automatically I'm
Helpful.
5'2", and unless I'm wearing like huge heels, I'm just look-wise, I'm not very intimidating unless I want to play that part. And then I put like my boots on so you can hear me clacking away at the floor. But
I fit that role
you fit that role
very naturally.
And then I think that when we're talking about like our roles in the business, our roles shifted a lot.
I think we went into it with a certain expectation. You brought your background to what you thought your role was going to be. I brought my background and experience to what I thought my role was going to be. And I think what I didn't anticipate was kind of the transition between the roles that we thought we were going to do based on our relationship to where our relationship really changed into like a very caring, like within our partnership. And so I think just the protectiveness and the wanting to help and the wanting to really make it bigger than it was really shifted as we got to know each other and went through some pretty crazy experiences together. We just like drop there, but
Yeah, I mean,
because I think when I think about where I was when we first started together, my life is very black and white. These are the things that I do. These are my deliverable dates, and this is how a business runs. This is your job. This is my job. And as long as we stay in those parameters, everything is fine. But based on my experience and my background and my working life, when those things don't happen, it turns into a very rigid person who is like, fine, if you're not going to do this, contractually, I'm going to do this, this, and this. I'm going to let you do this, this, and this, and then that is going to be our relationship. And there was a moment where I did that, and I laughed because I even remember what I was wearing, like, as I was doing this. It was like a pineapple dress, which is hilarious. But I remember I got done, and we had this whole thing, and I remember I didn't like how I felt. And I for the first time was like, man, I wish I could take a little bit of that back. And I never had that feeling before, because usually I'm like, yeah. And I didn't.
you're like, I'm a debater.
Exactly.
I proved my
I
point.
was like, I am strong. I am powerful. I am right.
And I come in with the emotion side of it
Yeah. And you're like, Dawn.
and the Jewish guilt.
That's a thing, man.
It is. I'm good at it too.
I wasn't prepared for Jewish guilt. But I think that was a moment where I learned that it's bigger than just me. There's more than just me. And the way that I came at that was not beneficial for us as a whole, and that my approach to that needed to change, because it wasn't like what we were debating over was something that was malicious. It was something that could 100% be fixed with just a conversation. We had just never had the conversation. And so it got out of hand.
Yeah. And to my defense, I didn't know that
and it
this
wasn't
was
involving
a
with you.
thing. It wasn't. It was actually my husband
Right.
and Dawn. Because in the beginning, we should say that my husband was the in the business. Like if you like the manager, the
day-to-day,
the COO, if you want to say like, and I really was more so stepping into like that,
driving us forward.
that driving, you know, when I just took this course. So they're like talking about the C-suite. So like the CEO, I know it sounds like super like big saying those words, but knowing like what those tasks are in those different positions, whatever you want to call them, I was more so like the creative, the driver, the one making like systems and all of that. And my husband was in it every day.
And he was fabulous in it, and it's stressful.
Yeah, I mean, props to him. He does not have a background in any of that. He has a management background, but not a salon background. And sure, it's like not a management of a bunch of young ladies background.
And all female customers.
And all female customers. And he did. He handled it like a trooper with his English accent. He uses that. You use your height to your benefit. He uses that to his. And I use my Jewish guilt to mine. And he like.
We are an awesome team.
And he did. But those roles that we had originally thought of, and when that hit the fan,
hard.
I was so thrown off because I was like, what is happening? And I realized that I am in partnership with two people who don't communicate about emotions and who don't feel comfortable in that kind of space and would prefer to just bottle it up and then blow. And the two of them, it's like the complete opposite of me. So I was like, what happened? And I emailed you. I think I called you multiple times before you would actually answer your phone.
Yeah, I had to get my stuff's ready.
Yeah, she had to write her notes.
But I have to. That's like one of my defense. If you call it a defense mechanism, like I have to be ready. So I have to have had the conversation, and I have to know if it goes this way, this is my response, and if it goes this way, this is my response. And I do that in a controlled environment so that it's very calculated,
which is not life.
Right. I'm working on it.
I mean, it's great that you got that far. Like, I mean, I feel like I look back and I've turned, because Phil has changed so much. So I should say like since all of that. And then I was like, no, like we're talking about this. This is not what is happening right now. Like and you basically said like, that made me feel very proud
awful.
of you.
I did. I had feelings about it.
That I did not have a seat at the table.
Right.
And my husband, I should also say, is like one of the most sweet, like
kindest man,
like would never intentionally hurt anybody, but he also starts bottling stuff up instead of talking about it and then snaps.
It was like the perfect storm, really.
And I think that what that situation taught was that we needed to shift the way things were done, like, and things were communicated. And at the time, we opened just 9 months before the world shut down. And we soon realized maybe 6 months into when we opened that my husband might not be the right person. We weren't in the right roles that we originally intended. And so that January 2020, he decided he was going to leave and go back into his field for both that and try working with your husband. It's hard. No matter how awesome they are. And he went back into his role, and then it was my job to step in as the day-to-day, which I, at first, very clearly, when we opened this place, announced that I am not good at day-to-day. Just bring you back to the ADD. I will forget to call people back. Like, I'm the worst receptionist in the entire world. And so for me to be there day-to-day, I was like, this cannot be long-term. I am just not that person. I don't like that many people in my face.
You get very stimulated.
I get very stimulated, very, very quickly, very overwhelmed. And then the girls, I mean, they're all cool about it because I communicate, but like I have 2 people who tried to call while I was already on the phone, and then I have to call them back, and then somebody's trying to check out, and then, oh shoot, I forgot to get somebody their mimosa, and I'm not that person. And I was also in a protective role where I was like, when we opened it, I'll open it, but I don't want to have to manage people, because managing people makes me uncomfortable.
It's hard.
And it makes me uncomfortable. The hard conversations that I'm not great at, I knew that it would push me out of my comfort zone, and I didn't want to deal with it. But life makes you do whether you like it or not. And I stepped in as manager, funny enough, March 1st, 2 weeks before we had to make the government made the call to shut everything down. And so it was hard.
But I think as hard as that time was, and I think that we're still, I think we're coming out of it, but I think that we also had a really good transfer during that time where you were like, I'm going to put stuff online. We're going to do these Facebook Lives. I did a Facebook Live, which was hilarious.
Oh my God, we were so much fun though. That was the best.
Fun. And so you really focused on what can we do during our shutdown
to keep this place open.
And I said, well, I'm really good at paperwork, so I'm going to take care of that side. So let me see what I can get for grants and loans and all of that.
Yes, you did, girl.
And so but our partnership was fantastic in that. I mean, if we were both trying to do Facebook Lives, that would have probably not been helpful. If we were both trying to get loans, like that wouldn't have been helpful either.
Correct.
So really honing in on, this is what I'm good at, I got this side. This is what I'm good at, I got this side.
Yeah.
And I'm happy to say we're still here. And I think our partnership is, even better than it was 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, I think because we've built a trust and we've kind of like settled into kind of our flow. I think that you were at first taken back maybe at how involved in the finances I was, fabulous. And I still am, which
I love because you're good at it.
I guess it's a control thing or whatever. Money, like, it also gives me a high. Like not when I don't have it, but
when it's coming in though.
But budgeting and like always like it's almost obsessive to the point where like I had her create, because I never learned how to like make an Excel spreadsheet with like form. And yeah. So like I was like, hey, Dawn, can you like make a thing that allows me to plug in our like fixed expenses and allows me to alter kind of like what we're bringing in to like show kind of where we would be at and all this stuff. And she was like, yeah, of course I can. And so she made this like cool, and I use it every month and it shows me, and I literally I plug in our numbers every like
probably 3 days. If I had to guess.
I would say like the first half of the month, because I'm so trained in retail that like you're only as good as your last month, which is not a good place to be at, because I'm really trying to look at quarters and like years, but
we haven't had a normal year.
We haven't had a normal year.
This is our year.
And I'm like, I plug, and I'm like looking at all of our numbers, and I'm like, it's like a week to like the end of the month. And I'm like, we just broke even with 7 days to go. We're good.
Right.
Like, and that's kind of like where I think, and I'm like, this is going to be a tough month. There's 3 payrolls. Nobody buy any more water. Like, stop offering champagne. Stop. Like, I'm so like tight-fisted in that sense, which, you know, you always say you don't have to worry about me, but I don't know. What else is on that
I think
sheet
I think we should, I think this has been wonderful. I think maybe like one last thing, talk about like what has been like the best part of a partnership, because this is my first partnership, like true partnership. What's been the like best outcome that's happened so far?
So, you know, like earlier we were saying that for me, when you have the right partnership, and I mean, history wise, like most places don't, when there's partnership, it doesn't work unless one person's like a silent
Right.
partner. And so I think that one thing that like really worked with us was that balance of when after that incident, you knew when to take a step back and trust me in like the driver's seat, I guess. And you're always, every time something happens, you're always just like, yeah, do it. Awesome. Until I was like mentioning another location and you're like, I think I just had a nervous breakdown.
Like, I need you to stop.
I know. You're like, I was like, you and Phil had the same reactions. Interesting. What was the question again?
ADD. Best possible outcome from the partnership that maybe you didn't expect, or what's made it successful?
See, like I always expected our friendship. Like I always expected that to come out of it. I would never go into business with somebody I didn't want to be around.
Right.
So that part didn't surprise me. I think that for me, I definitely, I'm like learning. You said in the other podcast, you said that I like round
my sharp edges.
Your sharp edges. I'm like, you make me sharper. You know, it's like I put on, when I have to have a conversation, I'm trying to like channel, you know, my inner Dawn of, you know, sometimes emotion is super important. Mm-hmm. And I always try to lead with empathy, but sometimes you need to just break that down and shut it down so you can do what's best for the business. And for me, I'm still trying to learn that part that you're so good at. And I think that if I can, you know, learn more of that and you can learn more of the softer side, then, you know, we'll just be one unit.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today. I think we have lots more episodes in us. But it's been, it's like I'm tired of hearing myself. But it's been super fun, and I can't wait to share with everyone how our business grows, and I know we're going to do big things. So thanks for listening, everybody. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you enjoy your shows.